Good morning, Russ. Thank you for being here. As you know, we're celebrating 50 years of existence here at the Research and Extension Center. And I know you spent some time here, quite a bit of time, and I wanted you to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your capacity here, and that you provided outreach here.
Okay, thank you, Donnie. I appreciate your inviting me to participate in this celebration. I do feel like I'm almost one of the originals here. I started my 42-year extension career at this very center in 1976, which was just 2 years after the center opened. And at that time, of course, extension meant agriculture, ranching, 4-H, family consumer science. And I came here with a background in marine science. Fortunately, in the mid-60s, 1960s, Texas A&M was designated a National Sea Grant College program, which was patterned after the land grant, which started in 1860, I believe. Mm-hmm. This center being located on the coast, it was a logical place to introduce marine science or marine resource activities into extension and research activities. Fortunately, the Sea Grant program also had a research component, which was primarily carried out by researchers in College Station, but we had 2 marine specialists and 7 agents located from Beaumont to Brownsville in county extension offices in coastal counties.
Yes, sir.
So in the early days here at the center, we set up a seafood technology laboratory, which was part of the research component. And one of the very first things that we did was to develop the optimal brine freezing system for shrimp vessels, kind of in keeping with traditional agriculture, row crop, specialty type things. We started dealing with the largest fishery in the state of Texas, which is the offshore shrimp fishery, which again, wild harvest fishery, a lot of uncertainty. But at the time, when I started here, the shrimp fleet in the Gulf of Mexico were limited to trips of about 2 weeks because they used ice to keep the catch from spoiling before they got back to dock. But that was about the limit because the ice would start melting, and even on ice, shrimp spoil fairly rapidly. So we developed the optimal system for brine freezing, that is lowering the temperature of water by adding salt to the water to get the temperature below freezing so that you could put a sack of shrimp in a big box of brine and get it to freeze in about 5 or 6 minutes. And then it goes down into a frozen hold on board. That meant that these vessels that used to be able to go out only for 2 weeks have to go all the way back to port, then go back offshore 30, 40, 50 miles, whatever, spend a lot of time, a lot of fuel. When they weren't fishing, they could now stay out for a month, 2 months, sometime even 3 months when they were still fishing off of the Campeche banks in Mexico.
And most of that work was done here by y'all?
A lot of that work was done here.
Awesome.
Almost exclusively, yeah.
That's good.
So again, to me, it was the ideal marriage, if you will, of research and extension. We had a very viable, if you will, programmed situation.
And how quick was that adaptation from producers? How did they adapt to it?
They adapted to it very rapidly. Yeah. Within 5 or 6 years, there was hardly an ice boat left in the Gulf of Mexico. It just cost them way too much money because it's a very fuel-intensive fishery to begin with, and running back and forth to port, and you're losing 4 or 5 days at minimum, plus another day or 2 in port. It made it fantastic for them to be able to stay offshore.
Any other projects that possibly you and Mike
at that time, Mike Cabey was our marine economist. He and I did a lot of projects together. One of them that we carried out actually here at the center, we actually got a display case like you'd see in a grocery store, and used different methods of displaying seafood, because what we found with an audit that we did throughout the country, actually about 5 or 6 major food chains, we found out that people that had a service case, seafood service case, where they were selling fresh seafood, whether it's shrimp, oysters, fish, whatever, were throwing away probably a third of their product, just because, unlike other protein foods, fish and shrimp tend to spoil fairly rapidly. It's just the nature of the product when it's under refrigeration, even when it's under refrigeration. So we went through a whole series of various handling techniques. Do you break the case down at night? Do you leave it set up and just ice it over? You know, what's the best way to handle that product so that you can get maybe a week's shelf life out of it while it's on display instead of 2 or 3 days, in which case it then goes out in the dumpster. So that's one of the things that Mike and I are very proud of.
So those relationships that you built with agents, maybe those marine agents and other specialists, how valuable were that team approach?
Oh, it would not have happened without the team approach. Again, the whole idea, getting back to the brine freezing system, the specialists and the research people that did the work here didn't introduce this to the shrimp fleet. It was our marine agents in the coastal counties that actually showed the shrimp fleet how to set up the system and how to maintain it to get an optimal product.
Some of those marine agents, do you remember their names? Some of those marine agents?
I do. I remember there was Joe Cervic up in Port Lavaca. There's Tony Reisinger, who I think is still down in the valley. Yeah. Rockport was Jeff Messinger for a while, and after that, Rich Tillman. Yeah, Rich Tillman, and he's still around. I think they've got a new agent up there now. And then up the coast, like I said, we had agents from Beaumont to Brownsville and in between. I think Julie Massey is still an agent, or maybe she just retired. She just recently, yeah. And she had been in Dickinson, there in Galveston County forever. Had a really good rapport with not just the fishing industry, which is primarily oysters up in the Galveston Bay Area, but just with the extension clientele in general.
Well, Russ, thank you for being here. That's some really good information. Is there anything else that you'd like to add from that?
I think just one other thing I wanted to mention was that while I was here at the center for the first 10 or 15 years of my career, we worked again closely with extension, that is, worked very closely with the research component to develop both shrimp culture and redfish culture in earthen ponds on shore. And that was a major push, major effort at that time. But
so basically the same component, the same structure of working with research and extension in the row crop field, for example.
Exactly.
Or even rangeland.
Yep.
It's the same thing we were doing on, for fisheries.
Sure. We had the perfect model to follow with cooperative extension when the Sea Grant program took over. In fact, it's virtually identical the way it's set up.
Well, great. Well, thank you again for being here. That's
okay.
Exactly what we needed. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.